paintings themselves, I think it might be a good idea if we listened to what Mondrian himself had to say about his art. Among various possible directions, says Mondrian, there are only two basic possible directions, horizontal and vertical. Among various possible light values, there are only three basic colors possible, white, gray, and black. Explaining how he arrives at these pictures, on the whole composition, he says, it was clear that the rectangles, like all individual forms, I began by marking out the forms, therefore they had to be neutralized in respect to the composition. However, it still appeared as forms, the rectangles are never an end in themselves, but the logical consequence of lines continued into the space which determines the rectangles closer. They arise spontaneously from the intersection of vertical and horizontal lines. Red, blue, otherwise the rectangles, if they are linking up the rectangles without corresponded to the expansion of the verticals and horizontals, as on the whole composition do not appear as it was clear that the rectangles, like all individual forms, stood out, and that therefore they had to be neutralized in respect to the composition. However, he goes on, the rectangles are never an end in themselves, but the logical consequence of lines continued into the space which determines them. They arise spontaneously from the intersection of vertical and horizontal lines. Otherwise, the rectangles, if they are applied on their own without adding some other form, do not appear as individual forms, because their contrast with the other forms does in fact cause a difference. Later, with the aim of cancelling the accentuation of the designs in rectangles, I abolished colour and emphasized the border lines, intersecting them one over the other. Not only were the designs obliterated and cancelled, their relationship became more active. The result is an increase in expressive dynamism. Even in this case, too, I experienced how important it is to remove individual forms, which is the first preparation for universal construction. By continuing the process of abstraction, in which the large square predominates, two processes which will completely mature can be perceived. The first is the harmonious division of the surface, which is arrived at by reducing the whole surface to two succinct images, squares and horizontal and vertical rectangles, which arise from extending the peripheral lines. The other is the ever-increasing importance of lines as the main factor in the picture. Thus, the main and structural role of the line is emphasized. Its function is no longer to border a geometrical image, which is no longer closed, but appears in the form of open, spacious parts. And although it is negative, the background thus again gains importance. So, if these pictures did not originate for the purposes of acquiring artistic skill, and were not made for the purposes of forgery, what then was the real purpose of their creation? After all, copying pictures such as Mondrian in a way which shows that they are unambiguously copies seems completely senseless, especially because we know that in modern art, copying is not regarded as a particular virtue. Modern art does in fact insist on originality, authenticity, creativity. Being a modern artist means being new, unrepeatable, different from the rest. And copying is working directly contrary to this. Copying is a synonym for uncreativity, unoriginality, unimaginativeness. To say of some artist that he reminds us just a little of some other artists is tantamount to insulting him, especially if it's a question of direct copying. Pictures such as Mondrian, it's completely understandable, because copying does represent a completely uninventive procedure. First, there exists the painting, which is chosen as a model. Then, within the limits of the possibility of the person who is doing the copy, the formal characteristics of the model are repeated. In this way, we will get a painting which is called a copy, while the model on which it is made is called an original. So what now? It looks as though we've reached the end of reason or the end of understanding, because I don't know how it will be possible to talk sensibly about the results of such a senseless procedure. Or perhaps it would be possible. Could we, for example, suppose that it is this very senselessness, this non-sense that is the sense of the creation of these pictures.